So this morning we have another great guest on our women's series, podcast series, limited series that we're doing. And so I have a lovely guest, which I'm very excited and happy to have this morning. Shayna, take it away. I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we can dive in.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm honestly so grateful to be here and be part of this platform that you're building and connecting people and businesses and women. So thank you so much. So I'm Shayna Osterer. I'm a business coach and strategic advisor here in Ottawa, but I support clients across Canada. I work with startups or people that are 10 plus years in that are trying to figure out their next steps. And I explain, and we look under the hood. We help understand the business, make sure that people understand what they're going through, what's happening in the business, so that they can make more informed decisions for growth and hopefully just scaling or reaching whatever goal that they have. Because a lot of people, it's not scaling; it's just whatever they're doing. So,
Mm-hmm.
really just working with people, helping them. I'm a helper. That's I've done that for most of my career in one way or the other, and I feel like I wasn't trained to be a helper, but through volunteering and things like that as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like it seems to be natural for me. And I honestly, if I met anybody on the street that had a business, I'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing for your marketing? How's your team?" Da, 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 da. And I was doing that for everybody. And
Yeah.
to the point when I was in school, a lot of my friends would be like, "Oh, who did you give free business advice to now?"
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't realize that I was doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of my professors had suggested that I looked at business coaching. Um, so here I am, almost 3 years later, doing it. So
3 years in.
yeah,
Awesome.
loving
Awesome.
every minute. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
And I think isn't as you're saying it, those opportunities sometimes just happen organically when you're out and about, like you're socializing and you meet someone and it just kind of comes naturally,
yeah.
which is welcomed in your profession, not so much in my profession.
Yeah, that is true. I have learned though over the years that not everybody wants feedback or
Right.
advice.
Yeah.
So I've learned to shut that off because I have like,
Mhm.
I'll give unsolicited or I used to. And now I'm like, people don't necessarily want to hear this information.
Mhm.
So I'm mindful not to do that because, not everybody's ready for it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. Um, well, again, thank you so much for joining me today on the Women's Podcast Series. And really the idea is really to talk about, the business entrepreneur side of people and women in the community,
Yeah.
community leaders like yourself, business leaders like yourself, but then also to bring in the human element in terms of, sharing a little bit of your story and a little bit of kind of your experiences and when what you've lived, right? Because I think we can probably agree. I'm saying we're
Yeah.
agreeing, but I'm saying this more of a statement. But you tell me what you think,
Yeah.
of course. But I think we are a product of our experiences, right? Of what we live through, of what we navigate. The human condition. I mean, we struggle, we suffer. There's stress. There's adversity. For all of us in different
Right.
ways. Like I like to say, we're all in that continuum somewhere.
Yeah.
All living things, and so. But I would say that those things really do contribute and shape who we are. They shape our values. They shape what we align with. They shape, worldview. They shape so much of,
So much.
your identity, in terms of, all the things, right? But so I just want to know, just kind of want to go back a little bit in terms of your history, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And just talk about, like, what would you say maybe is maybe one or two to talk about in terms of, maybe challenging experiences that you've had in your life, or a challenging time in your life that you're open, obviously, to sharing, as I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah.
That really, there was that, there were challenges, there was adversity, and maybe, sharing a little bit about that, and then just how you navigated and what you did to get through to the other side. Because
Y-
I think people can really, that's really beneficial, I think, for people to hear, because we're all living stuff, and sometimes people can really be where they're at today, can really be in it. And I think hearing someone else's story or sharing can really be, helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, My background, like I said, I've focused a lot on the healthcare world,
Mhm.
more on the admin, but it's also like the food startups,
Mhm.
helping other people build up their food businesses, and also my own of cookies and cakes that I was doing previously. Um, but in terms of my life, I mean, I grew up in a environment that my mom took over her father's business.
Okay.
My other grandfather on my dad's side was also an entrepreneur. So it's in my blood, entrepreneurship. It's like even if I try and run from it, it won't go anywhere. But for work wise, I mean, I was always, I always took on a bit of a leadership role, whether it was my role or not. But what I really learned, so I worked in, like, I was working for some smaller businesses here in Ottawa. When I was in Toronto, I worked for Sick Kids at one point,
Mhm.
and I would try to work my way up. I was doing a lot of things. I was on a lot of committees, doing strategy stuff, but I was an admin, and they wouldn't move me into a higher role
Mm.
because I did the experience, or I didn't have bedside. I have my background. I have a kinesiology degree, but that wasn't enough for that. But I was doing a lot of the work of management.
Okay.
I was hustling. I was literally asking, how can I improve? How can I grow? Um, and there wasn't really anywhere for me to go. And so I ended up leaving Sick Kids. I worked for a food startup here in Ottawa for a bit, and then I went back to Toronto and I worked in the medical cannabis space. The clinic that I worked for, I think there was 5 or 6 employees when I first started. I took a huge pay cut. I sat at the front desk. I answered phones. I welcomed patients. I started doing their marketing.
Mhm.
And then I grew into a management role within 3 months. So now I was overseeing the clinics and then growing it and doing education and triage and all these different hats that I never had before. But the cannabis space, I mean, I knew where it was going. I knew that it was going to get legal at some point. I knew how many people that I knew that medical cannabis was helping for so many different conditions. And I believed in it so hard that I was like, I need to be here. Like this felt right. And that experience was like the most life-changing opportunity that I could have ever had. Like I worked there for 7 years. I tried to tell people that I would never have had that experience, and I don't think any other organization, because my boss just like let me try things. I had so much autonomy, but we talked about opening a second location. I just happened to be on a walk in the area that I lived in and found a location, and I was like, "Do we do this? Like, who's gonna open this? Who's gonna write a business plan? Who's gonna do the budget?"
Right.
And this is before I did my MBA, before I really knew how to do things, and so I raised my hand. I'm like, "I'll take it on. Let me try opening a clinic. Like, what the hell do I know about
Mhm.
doing this?" And we did it. We opened the second location at Yonge and Eglinton. I got to do literally A to Z reno, design it. We had a design team that it didn't go so well. I apologize. Um, Ended up taking that over. But then all of the procurement and staffing and all the pieces that went along with building a business. And then I just kept repeating it. And I did it a few more times, 3 more times in Toronto. But then I was also managing the team at the same time. And so we were growing, and then we were growing across Canada. So it's like now we went from one small location to now 5 locations across Toronto and then virtually across Canada. So as you can imagine, our team is growing, the leadership skills. I was just talking about this the other day that, I apologize to the people that I used to manage because I was never trained as a manager or a leader. Like I figure things out on the go.
Right.
I learned about change management during my MBA. I didn't really understand or didn't know that it was a career. And there's a whole process that needs to happen every time you're making big changes. And I worked in an industry that there was always changes. Like literally every other week, something was different with the medical documents, who we can send what to, how we did things. And so we didn't have a choice but to keep changing.
Mhm.
And so I love change. But as you probably know, I don't think 99% of the world likes change,
That's
right?
it. Yeah.
So for me, it's like, yes, let's do this, hustle, and just keep doing things. But now I realize my team probably didn't like me many times because of the constant changes. But it wasn't because of me; it was because of things that we needed to do. Um, So I learned a lot in that world. And I think that's what's really given me even more confidence to be able to do what I do now, because
Mhm.
I've proven that I've been able to help this one place grow to where they were. And then, it got sold. The business did, pretty well. It's still running. So like that gave me a lot of the foundation and again the confidence. I'm somebody who believes in trying things. And if it doesn't work, you learn something from it. Um, honestly, luckily, most things that I've tried has worked out. So I just kept going with it. So yeah, that was a huge learning point in my career. Like again, why I sort of got to that place. But while I realized that towards the end of my career there, I was needed to figure out what I was doing next. Um, I knew I wanted to do consulting in some capacity. That's why I did my MBA. I like figured I could help people in a different way than how I was doing it. So I went into the consulting world and I learned so much. Like I was in a research report writing position, essentially like a junior consultant recently. And I guess I'll say it humbled me in certain aspects, like all the back end work that needs to happen when you're doing strategic planning and looking at corporate information or policies and how government makes decisions and budgets and all of these things that as from a small business perspective, I didn't have to look at that stuff. Like during my MBA, like we had to do research and stats can and all that, but this was like a whole other level of research and understanding like bigger picture and what's actually happening in the world that impacts these businesses and again their direction that they need to go in. So that gave me a whole other lens for when now I do business coaching. Is like, I mean, my brain is very strategy focused, so I always am thinking about the big picture. But I now look at it from a different lens, and now I'm like, the city of Ottawa has these reports that you can go to find out information if you're looking to open a business, what people are looking for, where they want it. Like, there's
Oh,
so much
okay.
data that exists
Okay.
because they research they pull the audience, the
Mhm.
city. So there's so much data that exists. So for businesses that are looking to grow, it's like, well, let's look for it. Like let's see what the city has already pulled instead of thinking, oh, should I open a coffee shop here?
Right.
Or even like smaller towns. It's so cool. For me as an entrepreneur, that I'm like, I'm always thinking about what to open next. It's a bit of a problem. Um, but now I'm like, now I know exactly where to go if I was looking to open a coffee shop, let's
Mhm.
say, right? So it's very interesting, just from a data perspective.
Mhm.
So that was a big piece. But really quickly, the last big piece I think that shaped a lot of my career, not shaped my career, but feedback that I got, and I actually made a post about it recently, was one of my previous bosses. I was in a junior position. Um, they had said to me, they go, Shayna, you know what your problem is that you think too much like a CEO and not enough like a marketing assistant. And I took that and I was like, so you have an issue with me looking at your business from a big picture and thinking of all the things that we're working on and how it's going to actually implicate your business. Like this is a negative for you.
Mhm.
And so, that became my strongest,
Mhm.
piece that I would use for feedback that I've received for future job interviews. They're like, everybody's like, well, that's a good thing. I'm like, that's what I would think.
Right.
So now I realize again, it's like that's how my brain works. I'm always thinking big picture. It's like, okay, if you're going to spend X, what is that going to get you in the future? So it's always looking at all these pieces. But yeah, like again, I'm so grateful for the career path that I've gone in. Sometimes when I tell people, like I just really gave you guys a skimming, but when I tell people, I worked here and there, and they're like, it sort of sounds like I'm making things up. Like it's just like it doesn't even make sense that I was like marketing here, and then I was in food here, and then I was in a hospital there, and then I was in cannabis here. Like it's just all over the place, right? But I love maybe it's ADHD, but I love just being involved in so much and learning and
Mhm.
growing and just like again, it's like maybe it's being just like having all of these pieces that it gives me the confidence to better help people because I have more knowledge and experience in different places. So I think that's also again what's helped me become a business coach is like I have the marketing background, the operations, the leadership, the strategy. So now it's like, okay, I've done it real world. I've gone to school. I've like, blood, sweat, and tears in the space. And it's like now I can help people grow. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you've worn so many different hats, and because you said in the one position in the when you were working for the cannabis company, you started out at doing the sort of more admin, and then 3 months later you found yourself. Obviously, they saw you were well in terms of your what you could do and your capacity and ability to was well beyond
Yeah.
in terms of and really wanted to tap into that and put you in the managerial role. But it sounds like, as you said, kind of trial by fire. Is that like exciting though? Does that like and because you're sort of speaking, that because there is a certain energy behind that, right? Sort of fly by the seat when you don't necessarily have it all figured out.
Yeah.
You definitely don't know all the hows. Um, and is that what is that like?
For me, I love it. Like
Yeah.
it is, and maybe it's again like the dopamine, the adrenaline, learning something new, figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the first things I probably said to you is, I'm not good with the word no.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's like there's always a way to figure things out. There's solutions for everything. It's just like trying it a different way or approaching, something differently. So I love the challenge, like problem solving. I always joke that if I could be in a think tank for the rest of my life, I would be so happy just brainstorming and collaborating. So yeah, no, that's to me,
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Yeah. And I think a question that I think probably you've posed to me in many ways and shapes and forms, but I don't think that people always know. And I guess I want to sort of get your take on what about that is important. And it's the why. Like the why you're doing something or the why. And I think we actually had a brief, actually little chat about it a few days ago, actually. But I think like in terms of, I use your great services as a business coach for me, and it's been instrumental. Like you've been a lifeline really in terms
Thank you.
of because I just did not know where to start. I knew that I wanted to, and as you said to me, as you do with love,
Always, always with love. Yeah.
and some sort of facial expression to go along with it. It's like it cracks me up though. It's like the many different facial expressions of Shayna.
Oh,
Like
no.
you could just sort of I could just sort of see it's like it's okay, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah.
She's gonna say something. But yeah, one
Yeah.
of the ones was most recently was really which was totally valid, which was the piece around I kind of did it backwards, in terms of like I knew where I wanted to go, but I purchased the building during COVID and then had it renovated. Like when I decided to go on my own in independent practice, and then had this great 2-floor space. It was 8 clinic rooms. Now it's 6
Yeah.
because we have the podcast studio in 2 of the rooms. So, but sort of did it backwards in terms of building business, but
Right.
then knew that I wanted to do it, reached out to you was a referral through a colleague, and it really been instrumental in guiding and supporting because it is overwhelming. And there's all the pieces that you talk about that you learned in the different sectors you've been in. Even the shoe sector I saw on a social
Yeah.
post.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and all the different sort of business sectors you've been in and different it's sort of all the pieces that you've learned and that you bring to your role today, including obviously the advanced education, the MBA, but to your role of coaching and how such as your client benefits having access to that because I don't know all those things. Like
Right.
I know my clinical work
Yeah.
and I love that, and that's what gives me meaning and purpose. And I know I want to expand, but I just don't know how to get there.
Right.
Um,
And you're amazing at that. And that's honestly, I keep joking that that should be my tagline for my website or my business cards. It's like you're really good at what you do. You just don't know how to run a business.
yeah.
And right. Because, there's so many people that come to me that are professionals like yourself or chiros or physios, like all the different like health and wellness or coaches in that world.
Mhm.
And they're trained on what they went to school for. Maybe they got an hour of business school training, right? Maybe.
I think I had I think there was a seminar that wasn't even part of my education, like my MA or my doctorate.
Yeah.
Neither. I think it was something that was outside of, it was outside. It was an extra. It was just someone who'd come in who we could go attend if we wanted. But there was, at least for me in my
Yeah.
training and my clinical training and just all the theory and all the things all the years of school that I've done. No. So no.
right? So it's like, okay, so well, obviously you don't know these things because like why would you?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like the same thing if I tried to do your job, you'd be like, Shayna, what are you saying? And so it's the reality of a lot of the people that I work with. It's just they aren't trained to do this. And listen, there are a lot of clients that I work with that have a natural tendency and they understand things and they're doing things and I'm just sort of there to support or accountability.
Mhm.
But then there's 98% of the people that just don't know, they just don't know. And that's fair. And again, it's like that's real life,
Yeah.
right? Like it's
Yeah.
but it's the fact that you had the courage
Mhm.
and the confidence to do this, like
Mhm.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Even like this space that we're in,
Mhm.
if you guys haven't been here, 139 Holland, book an appointment. It is beautiful. But it like honestly, the fact that you had the courage to build and to create a physical space, because there's so many therapists, for example,
Mhm.
that will just stay virtual. Like it's comfortable, they don't need
Yeah.
to grow and all that. But you took that leap and you're building it and you're
Mhm.
growing it and you're trying to fill more of the rooms.
Mhm.
So yes, yeah, and I've thought about the comment of that I said the other day of like you're building it backwards a little bit.
Mhm.
Because I was like, wait, I'm like, not just if you open a medical clinic, it doesn't mean like you have a whole
Right.
patient roster filled.
Yeah.
But it's just more, you went from just you to having, potentially 5 other clinicians. So it's more, and then all of the clients to fill up their hours, right? So it's
Yes.
just
Yeah.
more of the reality of, okay, let's do it like one clinician at a time. Let's
Yes.
get them booked in,
Yeah.
spend that marketing dollars on like the website and socials and all the
Yes.
other
Yeah.
pieces that go along with that. So that you can start driving business to that next clinician. And then once they start getting booked up or, having a few that you can refer to based on their specialty.
Yeah.
So it's doing things a little bit slower because that way you also don't upset people that you can't fill schedules. And like, I know that, having real conversations about,
Mhm.
it's new,
Yeah.
you're just starting to put
Yeah.
the energy into the marketing and growing
Mhm.
it. And again, it's like, that's the reality. But, I think for your business, like there's so many people that need help.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you're in a phenomenal location, again, beautiful space. So it's just a matter of people knowing that you exist,
Yeah.
and having the right clinicians to support them. And I think that
Yeah.
you're definitely on that right path.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the other piece too is really that you're helping with is, and you've really imparted into like in terms of shared is just you need the proper systems. Like this, there
Yeah.
needs to be the proper systems in place, the proper structure, the foundation needs to be there as you're building, as you're growing, because then it really helps. And it, in terms of just how your business is flowing, and at the end of the day, it is a business,
Yeah.
and I have lots of bills to pay too, right? So it's sort of not wasting money, right?
Yeah.
Being mindful and being intentional. And I think that's the other thing, right? Is you're you've you're teaching me and coaching me through is, okay, these are the systems you need. Okay, you need to make these documents. Okay, you need to make sure legal is on point. Okay, what about insurance? What about this? What about this piece, right? All these things that you kind of like are my sounding board and my check back to go, oh wait, no, did you do this? Or this needs to be done, right? And
Right.
then just the accountability piece too, is I appreciate like the tracker that you've created for me, in terms of it's just a way that we can keep track of things and know and where we're at. And it's short-term things, but it's also long-term things as well,
Yeah.
long-term goals, which is great.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, I think it's such you're such a value resource, because you also connect me to other people, right? In terms of, it's that, okay, I don't know how to do these other 46 things, which I don't, especially technologically, right? And so you've been able to, okay, like connect, these are a couple people that I know in my circle, and
Yeah.
just again taught, sort of encouraged me around networking, which is something I've never done and avoided. And getting into social media and all that stuff, like this is all new territory for me, right? So
Yeah.
it's great to have access to someone like yourself with your expertise,
Thank you.
because
Yeah.
you bring real life experience to it through your own business now as like an entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, but then past experiences as you've shared, right, in all those different
Yeah.
sectors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And honestly, like I say the accountability piece is huge, I think, for a lot of my clients, and why I'm not saying it's why they come to me, but I think it's also like a why a lot of people stay. Because my goal is really, to empower people that they no longer need me.
Mhm.
So it's like, but a lot of people will stay on just to be like, okay, well, somebody's making sure that I'm getting things done. So that's like a really big piece of it. But the networking in the community, I'm really just trying to surround myself with people, good people.
Mhm.
I came back to Ottawa after living in Toronto for 10 years, and I jumped into school, so I was a bit of a hermit for the first few years that I was back. And then I started building this business, and I was like, well, how am I supposed to? Like, I knew, I got my first few clients through Google and
Mhm.
organic traffic, and that validated my marketing, which obviously it felt good. But I had goals. I have goals. And so I put myself in an uncomfortable position.
Right.
I try and do it once a week.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it now for, I guess it's been about a year of just like pounding the pavement on the networking front. And now I go into rooms and I'm like, oh, I know like 5 people here. So it becomes a lot more comfortable the more you do it.
Yeah.
And I also think that a lot of people in Ottawa don't really realize like how much of an untapped market this is. Like Toronto is so saturated, Montreal, like Ottawa's just growing, and it's like people are starting like I feel like there's more of a hustle culture. Like it's starting to feel a little bit more
Mhm.
city-ish, and they're investing in so much of the downtown and restaurants and things to do. So I always not always. I didn't think I would necessarily come back to Ottawa. I thought Toronto was going to be, where I was going to be. But I always said when I was in Toronto, I was like, I'm like, Ottawa is untapped. Like, again, strategy, thinking of
Right.
future state. I'm like, there's so much opportunity there that I don't even know about.
Mhm.
So COVID brought me back here. And so now it's like, it feels like it's a little bit more aligned with who I actually am. I was just having this conversation downstairs. It was like Toronto hardened me a little bit. I worked on Bay Street for
Yeah.
the last part of my career there, and it was like that hustle and bustle. Like I love it. Don't get me wrong. Like that's like my happy place is
Yeah.
Bay Street. But then I went to my basement. Like I say, if I ever write a book, it's gonna be Bay Street a basement. Like that will be like my billionaire, success.
Right.
Um, but it's like, you sort of have to find that intrinsically, I find in
Mhm.
Ottawa, like,
Mhm.
especially because I live in the suburbs. It's like you don't really have that hustle and bustle culture that I did when I was living, midtown Toronto. So I have to find that a little bit more here. And through the networking space and connecting, it's given me that little bit of that push and that, excitement for
Mhm.
business that I needed. So maybe I do it a little bit also for myself, but also, again, just to surround myself. And, that's I don't know. I don't know if it's part of like the community that I grew up in or just like because I'm a part of a big family that, we're always just trying to help each other. But
Mhm.
it's like, what? And I think it's the same thing as coaching. It's like,
Yeah.
why would I hold on to these things when I can help other people?
Right.
So it's like, yeah, I'm meeting all these people in the networking. Like, why wouldn't I tell you about this person? Like,
Mhm.
that's the whole point is connecting with people because, like, 99% of the people, it doesn't necessarily work for me, but it will work for my clients that need
Right.
help with that
Yeah.
stuff. So, or
Yeah.
friends. And like, that's why I started the founder schmooze is like because I get to connect other people. We had the second schmooze this week, and just seeing the conversations and the partnerships and collaborations, like I was just sitting there like I'm like such a proud mom right now.
Yeah.
And just, seeing the connections even afterwards, like
Yes.
we're email exchanging and all
That's
these things.
awesome.
It's so good. It's
That's
so
awesome.
good. So I honestly didn't do it like really on purpose, but it was just like magically is happening.
Mhm.
And I also didn't realize that I'm always referring, people to each other until some of my clients have made comments like this. I'm like, oh, I guess I am doing this more often than I realize. But it's like, again, like, why not?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and circling back, because I don't know that we really answered that question, but it's kind of, you're kind of touching on it now and what you're sharing, because that sounds like that's a connected to the why. Like, is it important to know
Mm,
the why? And right. And that's, I guess that's connected to maybe someone's passion or someone's felt sense or someone's, and for me, if I'm making it about me for a moment, I would
yeah.
say when I decided to go out on my own independently and buy the building during, COVID, it was, I just knew that I wanted to eventually, be with a group and have more autonomy and, be an entrepreneur. And I had some other things and projects, that I was thinking about, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Um, and just wanted to contribute, to the community and to, which is the real meaning and purpose for me
Yeah.
is behind my work with people and
Right.
sitting with people. And I never take that for granted. Like I'm always humbled by it. And yeah, it's something that's very meaningful to me. So, you know, some of these other things are passion projects, and I mean the why I think is still connected with that in terms of,
Totally.
community outreach, helping to continue to further reduce stigma and access and sharing and, there's so many things. But,
Yeah.
back to that question, does everybody always know the why, or do we have to know all the whys? Because I get asked that sometimes, even when I was looking for guests to come on
Yeah.
the podcast, like I floated it on Ladies Who Lunch. And, I was getting kind of that questions. And some of them it was sort of like, it was almost like kind of the angle, like there's no angle here. Like there's
Right.
nothing nefarious here. Like this is totally above board. But it's kind of like, well, what's in it for you, or why are
Right.
you doing this? And so I know, I just sort of kind of, if you can speak to that, is it important to always know all the whys, or is it important to know some of the whys, or do the whys, do they change?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to know the direction and like the reasoning or the goal that you're
Hmm.
working towards. But I think, the why, like you learn if you're asking somebody about their why, it's like you learn more about them, like you get to
Hmm.
actually
Yeah.
understand the behind the scenes and, again, like why they're doing things. But like, I did a life coaching certification recently. So they said, like, don't ask people their whys. Like, that's part of it
Oh,
is actually something that they talk about. But
okay.
I still
Interesting.
do it, as you
Okay.
know, because
Yes.
for me, it's like, well, but why are you doing it? Like, why are you spending that energy? And again, like, I do think like the community stuff and the networking is like,
Hmm.
there's different whys behind why I was doing that. But it's like, again, there's different why, like it was just more of a natural thing that I was doing.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I've had so many conversations with friends about this because
Yes.
they'll do something and I'll be like, well, why are you doing that? They hate when I do it. They're like, well, why does there have to be a why? I'm like, well, it's just like you can do things because you want to do them, because you want
Right.
to volunteer, because you want to like donate. Like there's 100% like
Yeah.
do what feels good to you. I think that's like what it comes down to is that it's just like everything has to feel good in your soul, in
Hmm.
like your mission, your personal mission, what you're doing. Like if you're going to volunteer, it doesn't mean that you're doing it because you're trying to get business out of it. It could just be because you're a helper and you want to be doing these things and it
Right.
feels good for yourself. Like that could be as simple as your why, right? It doesn't have to be for anything bigger. It's just like, it just feels good.
Hmm.
So I don't think it has to be like as elaborate as maybe people think it has to be, but it's just
Hmm.
more of like, okay, but like, what feels good about it? Like what,
Right.
right?
Because I think, and then I don't know. Now I'm really getting philosophical here, but so is just sort of, is it is that also connected to, is it better to know, to have the knowing, like and I connect that to the felt sense about that. It's sort of that your felt sense, your attunement to the self, to kind of go, like, this aligns with me, this resonates with me, and I feel it, and I trust that, like that intuition,
Yeah.
versus I don't, because I don't, and maybe I'm speaking personally, but I don't think I could answer all the whys really. But I think it's good to have some knowing of that, as you're
Yeah.
saying, because I think it grounds you. And I think, that's about being intentional and about being
Well,
accountable
that's it.
versus like just sort of,
That's it. And I think like, if I ever asked you these questions, for example, it could be more of like, okay, you only have so much time in your day,
fair.
for example, right? So, I will say for some of my clients, this is, the why I ask the whys.
Yeah.
It's because it's like, okay, you have the marketing hat on sometimes. You have your operations hat on, you have your marketing, you have your HR, you have,
Mhm.
right? You have
Yeah.
all of these pieces on. And it's like, okay, but like, why did you just spend 16 hours doing that when that wasn't a priority? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, it's making sure also like your priorities are in check and that you're spending that energy and time on the right things.
Mhm.
And so, again, if I'm ever asking questions like that in the sessions, it's like also for me to understand, the bigger picture. Cause there's a lot of things, obviously, like I'm not here on a day-to-day basis, for example. And some clients I meet with weekly, sometimes it's monthly.
Mhm.
So there's a lot that happens even in a week, right? And like,
Yeah.
again, I don't get CC'd on every email. Like it's not like I'm running the business.
No.
So there's a lot that I don't know. So it's a lot of the time I'll ask things to understand, because then it also helps me, guide or ask different questions and sort of figure out what needs to happen next based on, you know, that why you spent 16 hours doing something,
Right.
for example.
Yeah, yeah. But also too, I think we could bring in the psychology around that, right?
Yeah,
Sort of what is the psychology behind why they picked to do that thing for 16
a
hours?
hundred
Because that's
percent.
could be about a whole bunch of things, right? Am I avoiding it? Am I scared? Am I fearful? Am I fearful this is going to flop? I'm afraid to fail. Because I think, and as a coach, you must experience that too.
All the
Like
time.
psychology is in everything we
Yes.
do. It's in all our relationships. It's in everything, right? So, really, I guess, really tapping into that and understanding and go and help, and asking that question, like, what was that about for you? What do you
Right.
think was going on for you? Or maybe is that a sign that maybe you just needed a little break and that felt, that's something that didn't overwhelm you in this moment, and
Right.
and that's okay,
Right.
and that's information.
Yeah.
And then maybe for you that's information to go, okay, is there something we need to do differently about pacing or about
Right.
task assignment,
Right.
right? To sort of,
Exactly.
and because I think it's about modulating it. I can't remember, we used a word when you called something when we had that little thing where I was on your sort of when you introduced people on your little clips,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you said a word, and then I can't remember what it was, but it just, I think it's the idea of, like, we can always recalibrate, we can always edit,
Yeah.
right? We can always, because you talked about how, sometimes you go back and edit, and I think that's what life is. Maybe that's what it was. It's an ongoing edit.
A hundred
We're
percent.
in perpetual
Yes.
editorial state, and that's okay.
Yes.
But I
Well, I
think,
think we have to, right? It's like,
yeah.
I'm all about growth and learning, but again, I know that there's a lot of people that are not like that.
Mhm.
So, I think that we're as humans in every stage and every life experience that we have, it really tailors, our biases and our
Yeah.
thoughts and,
Yeah.
why we would do things differently than another person. But yeah, I mean, I think whether we like it or not, we're always going to be changing. Like, right?
Change is inevitable.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
But yeah, like the psychology piece of, a lot of the work that I do, I try and leave that to the professionals like yourself. But yeah, there is a ton of, like, we'll call it the psych aspect of like what impacts how we do things in our business and delay things
Just
again.
decisions. I
Yeah.
mean, I hear what you're saying in terms of you're not therapizing, you're not doing therapy with your clients. I get that. And also it's in the room, right? And I think I had a conversation with Sabrina about that at the schmooze, at the first founder schmooze I went to.
Yeah.
And we're talking about Sabrina again. Bringing up her name. And or I am, but just sort of, she talked about in her work with she coaches executives,
Yep.
and just how that comes up, and she sort of checks in with them and go and notes it, and sort of says, have you, when was your last session, or maybe is
Right.
that something that you want to explore in therapy, because it's going to come up,
Yes.
and so I think it's important for you, I think, in my
Yeah.
opinion now,
Yeah. Please.
but to sort of to note it and validate it and go, I see this, or I'm seeing you, and I'm seeing this is
Yeah.
coming, that
I definitely do that. Like, there's a
yeah,
lot of clients I'm like, and you can read people through a screen, right?
yeah,
And I'm like, okay, I see that this is uncomfortable.
yeah,
There's been times I'm like, okay, like what happened when you were a kid? And I'm like,
mhm,
I'm not a therapist. Like, why am I
mhm.
asking that question? But they're like, oh my God, how did you know? Like when I was
Yes,
6, I was told I couldn't draw. And I was like, yeah, I can see
that's
that
it.
in your lack of creativity, right?
Yeah,
And so, again, like I'm a bit of a nerd that I love I wouldn't say self-help, but like the motivation and like that space.
mm.
And just like again, it's like I want to help people and I try not to do like, okay, let's talk about your childhood and like because I
Oh,
really do think
fair.
that it does impact,
Oh,
right? I don't
it's
need to
in
tell you that.
it's in the room. It's 100% in the
Right?
room. It's all within all of us, for
It's
sure.
all
Yeah.
so but there you can see it in a lot of people. So I'll be like, what's holding you back? What's
Yeah.
stopping you from
Yeah.
that? So I try and break through some of these blocks in people
Yeah.
because it is, it is impacting them from taking their next steps in their
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
So it does, we do get down into like, oh, my life, this is what's happening in my life. And we'll talk about real world stuff as well. Like it's not just business.
Mhm.
Obviously I try, I'm like, okay, like let's steer it back to your business because that's
Sure.
what you're paying me for. But I want to
Yes.
make sure that I'm hearing the person. And like at the end of the day, we're all just people.
Yeah.
We're all just here to like support each other and do better. And like if I can help somebody with like something that I've gone through or, what I'm seeing or hearing, and I can repeat back to them or like see like, what I've learned in a book or whatever. But I'll always say like speak to the professional about
Yeah, for
about what
sure,
you're
for
going
sure.
through. Yeah.
But you have to meet them where they're at,
Yeah.
right? And if they're navigating, right? And as you're saying, kind of, I'll put the clinical word to it, but
Yeah.
if they come in and you'll see the negative core belief showing up, is that's sort of what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Just giving,
Thank you.
right?
Yeah.
It's sort of a negative core belief is coming up and it's impacting how they see themselves, how they move, their behavior, right? So it's sort of how do you, they need to unpack that and
Yeah.
address that, And I know even speaking for myself in one, I think probably in one, at least one I can say, maybe two, because I think we started working together in like November.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a couple sessions where tears are present, where and I've shared with you, like I
Yeah.
kind of overwhelmed and things are going on personally
Right.
and navigating, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, this is I can only show up as how I am.
100%.
So and masking and pretending to you
Yeah.
that I could just continue to
Yeah.
overfunction when really I can't.
Yeah.
I'm navigating this emotional piece right now
Yeah.
and sort of and just to name it and say it. And obviously, yes, I need to, see my therapist for that. And I get all that. And also it's in the room,
Yeah.
right? And it affecting maybe, oh, I didn't get that task done this week because it's just not the priority for
Exactly.
me, right? Like this became the priority. And so I think just having that open communication and you creating that space to go, yeah, like, I get that. Like,
Yeah.
this as you said, like, we're 2 human beings at the end of the day.
Right.
This is real life,
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say in terms of, like, more on the personal side for you, Shayna, in terms of she's smiling, in personal side
Like
for you?
personal, I'm like, oh God, get me out of here.
No, but on personal side, just in terms of I mean, and obviously, share what you want,
Yeah.
share what feels comfortable, but just, anything that has where you're like, "Oh, that was a difficult time, and this is how I got through it, and this was a takeaway."
Oh my God, my life has been a movie.
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's so much. I mean, we all go through so much, and
Mhm.
even just how you handle things personally and deal with chaos and life falling apart.
Mhm.
One of my friends, I used to be like, yeah, that was a period where my life was like falling apart, and she was like, or when it was coming together, and I was like, I really
I
appreciate
like
that
that.
different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's sorry, what was the question? Because I got
Sort
lost in like having to talk about myself.
That's okay. It's a bit more personal, but it's sort of
Yeah.
maybe pinpoint using your word,
Yeah.
and but to speak to in a time when there was chaos
Yeah.
going on in your life, how did you get through that? How
Yeah.
did you get through the other side? How were you affected? And how is that impacting you today in terms of like a takeaway from that? Because I agree with your friend, right? We all live stuff
Yeah.
and it does shape us and it does, can shift us and help us grow and evolve even through trauma or tragedy or difficult relationships. I mean, nobody gets out of life unscathed. No
Yeah.
one.
No.
So my question really is just in a time that, maybe was more chaotic for you and you were navigating, challenging situations or circumstances or whatever it was, or relationships, whatever it may be,
Hmm.
like, what did you struggle most with at that in one of those times and what got you through and kind of what have
Yeah.
you learned on the other side? So it's like a three-parter.
Yeah. Um, Honestly, what got me through it? I mean, family for sure, like surrounding myself with people that were going to
Mhm.
support me.
Mhm.
Honestly, like I talked to a lot of people after I've gone through some life stuff, and they're like, the fact that you got out of certain situations or like you're okay and you like, again, my life was a little bit chaotic for a while, and it's like
Mhm.
now it feels like it was in the past, it was a movie, it's like
Right.
totally I'm like, I can't believe that was my life for, however long it was. But I think because I'm so intrinsically motivated to just like get myself up, just keep on going. Because I think like I've also been around, family members who have gone through a lot of stuff, and it's like, well, you gotta keep going. Like somebody dies, like that's the cycle of life, right? Or a
Yeah.
circle of life. So it's like, yes, it's sad that they're not with us anymore, but I have a bit of a I mean, I think some people will say it's crazy, but I've always believed that people are around us. So I feel like that actually brings comfort in a lot of things.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think I've just been so intrinsically motivated that I'm like, well, I'm not going to let this person take me down with them. Like, I have so much life to live. I
Mhm.
have so much to give and so much to do and so much to prove and all of the things. And it's
Mhm.
like for a certain situation, I went to a therapist and they're like, this isn't your fault. And I was like,
Mm.
no, I know.
Yeah, thanks. I knew that.
And they're just sitting there like, what? I'm like, no, no, I know this is not my problem. And I
Yeah.
like gave them all the things that happened. And I'm like, I've already given myself this therapy of like, yeah, I already know it's not me. And they're like, okay. And that was, they didn't fire me as a patient, but like, you don't need me because like you understand. I'm like, well, yeah, like I get
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
So I try and be really realistic with life. I think I'm a realist and like that's how I
Mhm.
approach a lot of things. And also living in a balanced state. I think that I've like learned, you know, maybe we can take this offline from a clinical perspective, but
Right.
um it's like, I've learned like not to like when something really good happens, it's like not to get like so excited for it. And then
Mm.
when something sad happens, it's like not to get so sad, like not to live in either one and sort
Mhm.
of live in like an in between.
Mhm.
So I don't know if it's like dimmed things a little bit because I'm not as like, oh no, like so excited about these things. But it's helped me live more of a balanced life, balanced
Mhm.
state and mindset all the time. Is that it's like this is gonna pass. Like it's gonna pass. I'm okay, like mentally, and maybe not for like right this second, but like I know I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna put the work into it.
Mhm.
I don't know. I just like day by day.
Yeah.
You live once, but you also have to like you can't freak out about the future because there's zero control over it. And even if you try and control it, it's like good luck. It's
Mhm.
never gonna go the way that you think it's gonna go. And I think that like just remembering that it's like I have no control over the situation. I'm just doing my best out here. It's one day at a time. And
Mhm.
then surround yourself with people that are gonna just like make you feel better or make you
Right.
forget things or whatever you need to be living in that moment. But yeah, it's really I think it's like how I've gotten into where I am. It's just like taking things day by day.
Yeah. And what would you say in terms of has that have those moments or periods of chaos or seasons of chaos, whatever you want to call them, have they informed you in terms of how you live today and function today as, as an individual as you move through the world
Yeah.
as Shayna,
Yeah. I
like
definitely think that
Shayna the
it's
human, Shayna the woman, Shayna,
yeah, I think that
yeah,
it's like impacted me of like obviously things that I don't want to do or like don't want to who I don't want to be around or
fair.
like things I don't want to be around.
Mhm.
Um yeah, I mean I think it obviously it impacts us and there's triggers and like things that you see that
Sure.
reminds you of certain things or
Yeah,
like whatever. That's just
fair.
human nature.
Mhm.
But again, at the end of the day, it's like I feel bad saying this, but it's like you have to look out for yourself. Like nobody else, even your parents, even your partner, like, they're gonna do their best. They're gonna try and do things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you have to look out for yourself
Yeah.
and take care of yourself and make sure that you're living the best life and the best
Yeah.
version of yourself. So it's like also like not looking for people to do that for you. And I think
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people they're like looking for somebody to make them happy or somebody to, fulfill whatever need that is. And I think I've like fulfilled my own needs like my whole life. Again,
Mhm.
like the whole session, but like
Yeah.
that's like a really I think it's just like I've been like independent and I've done all these things. So I think
Right.
it's just really helped me again get to where I am today and like how
Mhm.
it's just helped me live in the state that I am, just again more of a balance.
Mhm. Mhm. The word that keeps jumping out for me, like
Yeah.
screaming at me right
Oh
now
boy.
is no, I mean, it's good, is agency. Is
Mm.
you are very much grounded and connected to your sense of agency. There is such a solid
Yeah.
connection to that, right? In terms of because it's like, yes, these things happen to me, but it's, I'm affected by it at the time, and also it's not defining me. I didn't cause it. I can't control it.
Yeah.
And also I have a choice. I have agency in terms of how do I move through it?
Yeah.
What do I do? Right. And connected to that, as you're talking about your that intrinsic motivation, that internal locus of control that is so critical, right? Is in that really that understanding that I have the accountability and ownership and how I move through this and how I respond. Like I can't control what happens to me, but I can control how I respond.
Yes. I
Um,
love that.
and I think it's so important because and I don't and I wonder I'm not I know I don't want to therapize you.
No,
I
please
wonder
do.
well I wonder why you said I feel bad saying this. I feel bad saying that you have to look out for yourself. Like and I'm
Yeah.
just curious what's that about?
Well, I
Why
think
are you saying that?
there's like the selfish piece of it. It's like not. It's like I think about. I've had a conversation with my therapist. I'm like, am I a narcissist?
Uh-huh. No, but like
He's like,
according to whom?
yeah,
Like but where but again, what is because under that,
yeah.
if you are
I'm
the
like, don't make me
opposite of that,
cry. Yeah.
oh no, no, because under that, the opposite of that is abandoning the self,
Right.
is outsourcing your needs, is putting it onto someone else and that
Right.
expectation and waiting and hoping only to be disappointed, right? But when we can harness that ourselves, our agency, and
Right.
go, you know what, like, so I don't think that that's healthy. I don't think that's selfish.
Yeah.
I think it's so important, right? Because if not you, who? Because you are the keeper of your own
Totally.
happiness and your own wellness.
Yeah.
And so I just don't see it as selfishness. So I'm just
Good.
wondering where that what's that about for
Who
you?
knows? I mean, like I come from a big family, so
Uh-huh.
like I'm sure there's something
Right.
along those lines. But I joke that it's not a joke. I'm like the fourth and forgotten. There's five of us.
Yeah.
So I've like had to be like really independent my whole life and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
figure shit out and like,
Yeah.
everybody had so much going on. So I think
Mhm.
there was a lot of that probably played a big
Sure.
piece in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I hope listeners understand that actually that is healthy and that is when you are connected to your sense of agency and that you have accountability and you can you can do things, you can get things done, you can take care of yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because we can't outsource our needs, we can't outsource our care, we can't outsource our happiness to
That's
someone
it.
else, and we can't put that onto partner, onto parent, onto sister, onto friend. Not okay.
Not okay.
Not okay, not helpful. And you're only going to be disappointed, frankly, because
That's it.
you're the one who knows you fully and truly and wholly,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's again how we build confidence. That's how we build, resilience. That's how we build capacity, right? And going, okay, this is what I need and this is how I feel. So I think
Yeah.
it's healthy.
I
I
love
don't
that.
think there's any part of that that is bad or selfish or wrong, or I think that's a healthy human.
Yeah.
That's a
Thank you.
healthy functioning human.
You guys hear that? It's recorded. Uh, no, but honestly, I remember as a young kid, being fed the line that it's like if you don't expect, you won't be disappointed.
Mhm.
And so that's like really been,
Mm.
the backstory of like everything. I
Mhm.
think because it's like I don't expect anything from people, so it's like you
Mhm.
don't you don't get disappointed.
Yeah, yeah,
So like
yeah,
it's not great, but it's like you gotta just
yeah,
do what you gotta do.
yeah. And there's also I hear a little bit of emotion there,
Yeah.
a little bit of hurt maybe that's underneath that
Always, yeah.
because I think yes, it's true, and also we do we still do need that relational
Yeah.
piece and not we do have needs that are met only relationally,
Yeah.
right, with other and I think it's like having that expectation and having is it to some degree there has to be some of that, but
Yeah.
it's that realization that hopefully the majority of the time it's going to work and it's going to be okay and it's going to be in terms of because there could be expectations around how around respect, around
Yeah.
integrity, around shared values, around honesty, around what does that look like, what does that I
Right.
think there needs to be and that taps into the trust piece, like I need to know that I can depend on you and
Yeah.
that you will be there consistently.
Right.
And, and I think because the extreme of that, which you're kind of touching on a bit, is really hyper independence and sort of alone. Like I'm really alone and I can't
Mhm.
depend on anyone because that's scary
Mhm.
and uncertain. So that's the other side of that.
I mean,
Just
totally.
yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah, yeah.
100%, yeah.
But But I think what you're sharing is really both professionally and personally. As a woman you are today, you've navigated, great challenges and also had great experiences and um, throughout your life thus far. And it's as we've talked about, right? It's shaped the Shayna of today, of
Totally.
2026, of June 2026,
Yeah.
and just that. But and it's an ongoing edit, right?
Ongoing.
It's an ongoing thing in terms of the other exciting things that are coming for you, professionally and personally, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But
Thank you.
yeah, but I mean, I think it's our stories shape us, right? Our stories, you know, shape us. They do.
100%. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the shit that I've gone through. So as much as, everyone's like, "Oh, would you change your past?" The answer is still and will always be no.
Yeah.
Like I would like the experience and like the trauma, the lessons, like all of the emotions that have gone through good and bad. It's like I still wouldn't be sitting here today if that hadn't happened or, a
Yeah.
bunch of things. So, as crazy as it sounds, it's like I'm grateful for the shit that I had to deal with. So,
Hmm.
yeah. It's eye-opening dealing with like when you're working with lots of different people and like as
Hmm.
I'm sure you can imagine speaking to people and learning about their backgrounds, it's
Yeah.
like again, everybody brings in a lot of different experiences and what's shaped them and you really have no idea what somebody has gone through or
No.
any of that. So,
No.
it's like that's why I'm always such a big believer in like treating people kindly and being authentic. Like that's a really big thing for me is
Hmm.
authenticity. I think that there's so many people that are so fake
Yes. Yeah.
and it's like you can read it right away, right?
You can
And
clock it. You clock it. It's like,
just right away. And so
yeah.
again, it's like surrounding myself with those kinds like real people
Yeah.
that aren't going to just like feed me BS that things that I need to hear.
Yeah.
So just be around good people that will like push you to be the best person, the best version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're talking about is really a good summing up or kind of bringing the podcast to the close today. But we're meaning making all the time, right? So meaning making of our experiences.
Yes.
And I think it is so important to have gratitude. I'm aligned with you in that and appreciating and having gratitude for the life, that I've lived,
Yes.
right? I left home at 15 and here I am
Crazy.
today, right? So and there's been a whole lot of living in between now and then.
Yeah.
Um, but it's you make meaning of your experiences. You get to determine that. You get to decide that. And
Yeah.
that determines how you're affected by them, right? And really how you move through life,
That's it. You can like sit there and like be depressed and like obviously there's causes for lots of things,
Sure,
but
sure.
it's like you can like sit there and just be like angry and why me and live in that state, or you can choose to remove yourself and be better and happier and live just like a better life
Yeah.
if you can, of course,
Yeah.
get out of that. So
No, absolutely. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and sitting with me. It's been a real
thank
pleasure and
you.
real treat to have you. And I really appreciate your openness and your authenticity and your willingness to share about all the things that you shared today.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for sitting with me today.
Pleasure. Anytime.